Hey everybody, thanks for joining the call on such short notice. I'm going to try to add a little bit of color to the current crisis and keep things a bit goofy even though we're stressed. First of all, I'm Dan Peterson. If you didn't know me, I'm the CTO of DLS, and I prepared this report for the board with Liz and Shelley, our finance and operations leads, who could not have done it without. They're amazing. My three objectives for this report presentation are to inform and update you about the current crisis that we're going through. Second, to persuade you that you should support and internalize our company's new strategic direction. We're going to be making some really big changes, and we're going to need your help to get everybody on board. This is something that's got to permeate not just through identification, but all the way through internalization to as far down in the organization as we can. My third objective is to finish in 6 minutes, and I've already almost used one. So, just a basic where we're at, who we are. You know most of this already, but we're a middle-sized car manufacturer, $13 billion in revenue. Our main locations are still Midwest and South. Our competitive advantages are the same. The current crisis that we're dealing with is related to the transition between stage 5, based on growth from collaboration, and stage 6, growth from alliances. We moved too quickly, made some pretty big mistakes. We promoted some people who weren't ready for it yet. We simply do not have the talent internally to continue growing at the scale that we are. We're too big, and we got to start looking outside. This report is for mostly you, the stakeholders, and the board of directors, the executive officers, and a couple of external people on this call as well. We wanted to keep informed. There will be a version of this report available for the rest of the company as soon as we can get it out, but we want to get this to you as fast as possible. We also may need to do some division-specific language for those other reports. Just a refresher on our mission. Of course, you know this by heart, but we are here to increase access to cutting-edge transport for all our customers by leading the industry in workforce engagement. I wanted to read the whole thing because it's extremely important. It's also the source of our current crisis. Little refresher on the vision. Things I want to pull out for this one is that we are all an American car manufacturer. That's still our strategic advantage. And the two things that we need to deal with this current crisis are better, more effective, balanced management practices, and a commitment to long-term profitability, sustainable profitability, not just profitability in the short term. We're going to be doing that through organizational learning and improvement. It's a new, very important part of how this is going to function. I also want to highlight some of the challenges that we were going through. We are not increasing access anymore, and we are failing to do that. And we are no longer leading the industry in workforce engagement based on some consumer and employee satisfaction indexes that are going to be our new goals. So at the strategic level, top level, we want to have an ASCI score of over 85, the American Consumer Survey Index, if you didn't know. And we also want our employee satisfaction index to be 80%. These are both 5-year goals, and they are industry-leading ambitious. They are exceptionally large stretch goals. We think we can get there if we stick to the plans. Plans are divided up into different functional levels, different levels of the different organizations, and some important, I'll get back to OKRs in later slides, but the important environmental forces that we need to focus on are some potential trade regulations, which we still don't know. We still are unsure when or how stringently those will be applied. And we also are in the long term looking for to deal with the economic implications and environmental regulations that are going around greenhouse gases. As a car manufacturer, we feel it's very important for us to keep that in the rearview mirror, in the front of the mirror. Here's a quick and dirty open systems model of DLS as a whole. There's a much more detailed slide next, which I'm only going to show for a second. This presentation, like the rest of them, will be available. Lots of stuff going on, and got to keep it all in the air. So we also just recently switched our organizational design from mostly just tweaked it from a divisional structure to a product divisional structure. We wanted to streamline some of the horizontals and get people focused on a more specific set of consistent things so that they could keep improving. This has retained some of the specialization that we have, but it also has helped us accommodate to the again, continued vertical growth, large horizontal and vertical growth that we're dealing with. OKRs are really the meat of how we're going to deal with this current crisis. If you are not familiar, OKR stands for Objectives and Key Results. The objectives are the achievable but very ambitious milestones that we set for ourselves, and the key results are how we measure whether or not we've made those results, whether or not we've achieved those results. Once we adopt this system and replace the SMART goal system we've been using, we will be able to do some really extensive integration across the company, across different divisions. Cross-functional teams will not be the only place where people that have different disciplines are talking to each other. We want this to be a constant thing. The decision-making structure is going to shift a little bit. It was already pretty complex, and it's going to be slightly more organic, which for a reason I will get into later. But it's not going to change as much as some of the other things are. 3 rule changes for the rule structure. We want every employee to treat each other and other employees in the company as the most important employee in the company. No matter what they're working on, no matter what their job is, their continued success is integral to the company's success, and they need to be treated with respect and with dignity in that way. Second rule, we also want to make sure that each team and each person is familiarizing themselves with the objectives on teams above and below them, people they report to and people who report to them. It's very important that they know what those objectives are. So key results are sometimes a little bit too specific, but you want to know what your objectives are above and below you, and you also want to know the top level company objectives. These OKRs will also be reviewed constantly according to a specific set. So we're probably just going to use the schedule that's been very successful for Google. They seem to have had gotten a lot of use out of it. It's a sort of pseudo quarterly plus a little bit of annual OKR reviews. Base level and top level, DLS's reputation cannot be compromised for any reason. The reputation of the company, which has carried us so far into the future, when we started cutting corners, when certain managers who were promoted started cutting corners, pretty quickly after that, we had to do a product recall based on some of the decisions that those managers made. Not every manager that we promoted struggled, but a couple of them did, and it's really bitten us. Boy, talked about that too long. Key values that are animating that ethical view are the primacy of workers, like I already talked about. OKRs will help us give some incredibly important transparency and accountability, and those are towards the ends of a deeply engaged workforce and extremely satisfied customers. The shift from SMART goals to OKRs is an evolutionary shift, but it hides a much more important and much larger revolutionary shift, which is re-engineering the management structure from just a top-down structure to include more important bottom-up input from people at the bottom level. We've been doing this, and many managers have been doing this for a while as part of the lean manufacturing system that we use, but we need to instantiate this in the sales teams and in the research teams all over the company. This needs to be the new standard of how we work. There are forces pushing for this change. The biggest is the internal needs of the company. We are struggling because we are larger, and we have fallen out of sync with our core mission. We've also had some pretty significant employee dissatisfaction decreases, especially after the recall. We also are hearing that we need this from our new recruits, from the people that are just joining the company. There's some pretty significant changes in what they expect, and they expect this transparency and accountability from their management, and we think that will help. There's some forces against change, which there will be managers who perceive this as a loss of their authority. It is not a loss of their authority. It is an important change in the way the company is functioning. Don't lie. And we'll also experience some resistance from employees that are very comfortable in their old habits. The way we're going to go through each of those changes is by processing changes in 3 phases. We're going to unfreeze some of the habits that we've had, move them to new habits, and then refreeze them in place. That process never ends. It's a constant process that needs to keep going forever. But that's the terminology that we're going to use. It's from Kurt Lewin's model of organizational change. The action steps are also very important. We're going to roll these change initiatives out in waves into individual teams that we think are ready for it, and then we'll make sure that the changes are functioning and have taken hold. Then we will roll them out to all the teams together. We also have formed 2 new cross-functional teams. We are forming a rewards and recognition team that will be encouraging these new changes and rewarding people for the things that they've done, recognizing contributions to the change. We're also going to form a Pipeworks team we've actually already formed that one. They're digging around already. They're basically a Skunkworks team that's going to be digging around separate from management, trying to find ways to be more efficient and to increase the things that we're doing well. Also, last important action step, you should already have in your inboxes. Everyone is going to be going through servant leadership training. We want to make sure that, like many of the managers that have already been practicing this, leadership respects and understands that the people that report to them are not the only ones that have a responsibility. They also have a responsibility to the people that are reporting to them. Ooh, word that better. Last slide. The original slide, the first slide in this presentation was my OKRs for this presentation. I hope that I informed you about the current crisis and that it requires swift corrective action. I also hope that I persuaded you that these evolutionary changes and revolutionary changes, cut that down, are the best hope for us surviving. Way too many words. Time check, we are at 10 minutes and 42 seconds. I'm going to cut this down again, Shelly and Liz, sorry. And I'll take questions after the call. I just need to delete that. That's not important. Last thing, every single one of you listening to this presentation right now knows something about the company that nobody else does. Something that we can do better, something that we already do exceptionally well and we haven't noticed yet. We need your voice. We need you engaged, board members, external partners, core members of the executive team. We need you engaged to keep DLS moving forward. Thanks for listening. Can't wait to keep working with you.